All right, good morning. I'd like to call this voting meeting of the House and Labor Industry Committee to order. Jonathan, please take the roll.
Dawkins,
Here.
Boyd,
Here by designation.
Brennan,
Here by designation.
Deloso, Donahue, Giral, Green, Haddock, O'Mara,
Here by designation.
Piscitano,
Here by designation.
Rozzi,
Here by designation.
Scott,
Here by designation.
Siegel,
Here by designation.
Young, McKenzie,
Here by designation.
Cooper, Diorsi, Ecker,
Here by designation.
Flood, Glime,
Here.
Ham,
Here by designation.
Jones,
Here by designation.
Kiefer, Rowe,
Here by designation.
Stanball. We have a quorum.
Thank you. The bill on today's agenda is Senate Bill 1230, printer's number 1891, sponsored by Senator Baker. We have a motion made by Representative Green to consider Senate Bill 1230 and second by Representative Haddock. Ryan, please explain the bill.
Senate Bill 1230, printer's number 1891, establishes a new elevator code in the Commonwealth.
Thank you. Representative Glime will be now offering an amendment, and it's the last one you said on the agenda. A06018. John, please explain the amendment.
A06018, Representative Glime, requires the Elevator Safety Board, in consultation with L&I, to conduct an analysis of the 2016 elevator codes compared to the current standards adopted under regulation and report to the Governor, the Secretary of Labor and Industry, and the 4 caucus L&I committee chairs no later than July 1st, 2025. The department must consider the board's report when promulgating regulations to adopt a modified 2016 codes. The report will include a list of the significant changes in the 2016 codes compared to the current codes, the board's recommendation on whether each item on the list should be adopted, not adopted, or modified, any data from other jurisdictions that adopted the 2016 codes which demonstrate safety improvements. If the board cannot find data for a specific item on the list, the board will include comments on the safety rationale for its recommendation. And then finally, the board's recommendation on the frequency of inspections and testing, along with any relevant data from other jurisdictions, and the board's rationale for its recommended schedule.
Thank you. Representative DeOrsi makes a motion to adopt Amendment A06018, second by Representative Cooper. And now turn it over to Representative Glime for comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This underlying bill inserts the General Assembly, which I'm happy about, into a regulatory matter related to the adoption of technical standards. We are being asked to circumvent an extensive regulatory review process and make decisions on a detailed set of technical standards that we cannot meaningfully understand or review before we take a vote on this. This is the book. It's over 600 pages long, and we're asked to be taking a vote on this today, and we haven't even had the chance to meaningfully review it. Some provisions might make elevators safer, but some might make them less safe, and others might cost a lot of money but make no safety difference whatsoever. We have no way of knowing right now what is best for elevator safety. My amendment requires that the Elevator Safety Board give us a detailed analysis of what is changing between the current codes and the 2016 standards contemplated in this bill, along with the safety data and rationale for the changes. It is very late in the legislative session, and when legislation like this is rushed, it leads to bad decisions. Everyone agrees that PA codes should be updated, but understanding those updates is key. The supporters of this bill are saying safety, safety, but we don't actually know the details of how this will make elevators safer. If the Elevator Safety Board and other stakeholders want the legislature to get involved in the regulatory matter, we should not just rubber stamp the code book and board's modifications. We need to truly understand what is changing and why. And that's why I would like everybody's yes vote on my amendment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? Representative Lozo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question for the maker, and then I'd like to make a comment on the amendment.
You may proceed.
My question is that does the maker honestly believe that the Elevator Safety Board, in construing a 600-page report, would intentionally create elevators less safe for the public?
Thank you for that question. I actually don't know because I haven't received any type of report. I do know that we are short workers to be able to actually carry out this bill. We are asking for 5 times the amount of testing. We're going from 5 years, every 5 years to every 1. We are doing other things in this bill. And as a General Assembly, we should be reading and making sure that everything in here is actually going to be able to be promulgated. Thank you.
Okay, one last question. Is there anything during your time in the legislature and your breadth of knowledge of elevator construction and safety that leads you to believe that you, by reading that 600-page document, could cast a better opinion of safety matters than those that have been trained to do it?
Thank you for that question as well. And I would feel much better casting a vote where I am actually knowledgeable about what I'm casting than otherwise.
On the bill, Mr. Chair?
On the bill.
On the amendment, I'm sorry.
Let's go on the bill. On the amendment,
On
sorry.
the amendment. I for one, feel very comfortable in the experts leading us in the right direction for elevator safety. This bill is supported by Local 5, the elevator constructors in Philadelphia. This is not something that we wait for someone to die to correct. The constructors of that 600-page document have every will to create the safest environment for elevator travel for the common citizens of the Commonwealth, and I will be a no.
Thank you. Representative Kiefer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On that same note, my concern is that we have all of these rules, all of these new rules. Again, we have not had an opportunity to review them. And I'm not saying that would we know better necessarily than the board, but can they demonstrate justification for all the additional rules? For example, going back to the test once every year as opposed to once every 5 years, what's the impetus of that? What would be the yield for the safety measure that's there? Does it warrant that? And I would feel more comfortable actually having the opportunity to look at all of this and have a comparison report before we blindly rubber stamp. We cannot continue to punt to these executive agencies. We should absolutely lean on their expertise. But it is our duty at the end of the day to do our due diligence and make sure that this is all for the good of the citizens of the Commonwealth. So with that, I would encourage all my colleagues to support Representative Glime's amendment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Representative Haddock.
So the maker of the amendment said that there's somebody's short staff. Would she clarify who's short staff, that she didn't have the information needed?
Yes, sir. So labor and industry is obviously short-staffed, but the actual members that are going to be doing the testing are short-staffed. And it is my recommendation, again, that we get an analysis of whether the going from every 5 years to every 1 year will actually be able to be implemented. So the Department of Labor and Industry provided us with a fiscal analysis regarding the increased frequency of the Category 1 elevator testing under the 2016 codes. This assumes that the Elevator Safety Board will include annual Category 1 testing when it submits modifications. The estimate for additional staffing for witnessing Cat 1 testing for 68,000 units totals over $1 million broken down 10 additional inspectors at a cost of $922,000 for personnel costs. Those personnel will need an additional $50,000 for computers, peripheral equipment, travel, etc., and they will need to issue new code books as well.
Well, I believe in your comment earlier, you said you did not have the proper information on the bill in question, and you certainly seem to have a lot of facts. So I think you do have the information that was needed. And to Representative Del Rosa's comment, you know, somebody could die in the future. This board has been created because people did die in an elevator accident. Both the correction officer in Luzerne County and a Luzerne County inmate fell down a shaft. So we have lost a correction officer, and I will stand with law enforcement in this committee, and I will move this bill forward. Somebody has already died, and somebody else said we need to evaluate this. 2 lives were already lost, and that board was created to save lives. And I think they're doing their job, and I think facts are given out already on the need of correcting the situation at hand and doing more elevator construction and inspections before somebody else does die, because we already have 2 examples, both an inmate one more time, Timmy Gillum, and a correction officer by the name of Chris Smalls that left the family behind.
Thank you, Representative. We're now joined by the minority chair. Do you want to talk on this bill? Okay, on the amendment. So let me give you, for the members before we vote, just some background on the Elevator Safety Board, which was created in 2018. In 2020, it recommended updating the code to ASME 2016 code from the current code, which is a 2002 code. The department spent 4 years reviewing the recommendations and preparing an internal white paper prior to presenting this recommendation to the Safety Board in June of last year. Asking the department to conduct another review serves no purpose. The Senate passed Senate Bill 1230 unanimously, with the prime sponsor of the bill committing that the review had already taken far too long. The Elevator Safety Board is made up of a cross-section of individuals knowledgeable in the elevator industry, including a member representing the building owners as well as member of the general public. The Safety Board also unanimously recommended annual testing, which is likewise recommended in the 2016 code. The passage of this bill will make elevator safety and relieve the Commonwealth from being an embarrassment of having the oldest elevator code in the nation. And just from a cost standpoint, it roughly costs for a Cat 1 testing $575 per elevator. And if you ask me, is $575 too much of a price for a life? I would tell you it's not. So I would ask all members to oppose this amendment. Jonathan, take the roll.
Dawkins.
No.
Boyd. Brennan.
No by designation.
Deloso. Donahue. Jarrell. Green. Haddock. O'Mara.
No by designation.
Piscitano.
No by designation.
Rossi.
No by designation.
Scott.
No by designation.
Siegel.
No.
Young. McKenzie.
Yes.
Cooper. Diorsi. Ecker. Flood.
Yes.
Gleim.
Yes.
Ham. Jones. Kiefer. Rowe. Stambaugh. The amendment fails.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on the bill? I now recognize the minority chair, Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, I think on this legislation, it deals with a very serious topic about safety and particularly elevators. And as we heard, there have been instances where tragic cases have occurred. And so we do want to see codes updated here in Pennsylvania. The fact that they have not been updated in 20 plus years is a serious concern. And we want to figure out what that appropriate process is to update those codes. And when we go through processes like this, we have actually taken this responsibility away from the General Assembly over the years when it comes to things like building codes and other things, because we don't have the expertise. And we don't want these to become a part of a political exercise. It should be about safety. It should be about experts who know that field, who work in that area, who go through hundreds and hundreds of pages of code changes, very technical in nature, and then ultimately promulgate those regulations through a very public process where public and other stakeholders can have input on that process, and they can ultimately update and improve safety standards here in Pennsylvania. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened, but my concern is that this legislation actually is a watering down of safety standards. By taking it out of that regulatory process, that is very concerning that we will have less public input, we will have less input on the process that is so technical in nature, and ultimately, I think we could end up in a worse position. And so I think what we want is we want to figure out a way forward where that same set of individuals who have that expertise and that knowledge can go through that regulatory process, but we need to just tighten up those timelines and make sure that they have mandated criteria of when they would adopt things, when they would go through these processes, much like the RAC process. When we see in the UCC, the RAC process has very specific timelines that are laid out. And so I think that would be a much better approach than this legislation here. The 2 inspections a year are what we do and what we consider safety for particular elevator inspections. And so that does not change here. It adds one thing about a no-load safety test. Not opposed to that. That may ultimately be a very good thing at the end of the day. But that should not be something that is being pushed by political actors on the outside who have certain interests at stake. That's not the way that this should work. It should go through a typical process where there is public input. And so I think we're watering down that process by what is being proposed here today instead of trying to improve on the existing process and maybe tightening up timelines. So I would encourage a no vote on this. We can go back to the drawing board. I know the administration, or at least the last I had heard from the administration, was that they were opposed. The Shapiro administration was opposed to this particular legislation. That's a concern as well. They're going to be the ones through the Department of Labor and Industry would be overseeing this process. So their opposition is very concerning as well. I think we just need some more work on this legislation to make sure that we are actually putting forward something that will improve safety here in the Commonwealth. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Haddock.
You know, in a prior life, I was the clerk of courts in Luzerne County, and I was the prothonotary in Luzerne County. When this accident in Luzerne County in 2016 happened, again, we lost an inmate by the name of Tim Gillum, Jr., and we lost a correction officer by the name of Christopher Walls. Senator Baker, the sponsor of this legislation, has been a leader since 2016 in correcting the problems with elevators in Pennsylvania. She is not a political actor. She is a state senator that has taken the lead, and I will say bipartisanly, for safety in our elevators throughout the state of Pennsylvania, and it's appalling that she's called a political actor. I will gladly support correction officers, the inmates, and every other Pennsylvanian that gets on an elevator in this state for their safety. And I will be affirmative. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Gleim.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am sensitive to what Representative Haddock has stated, which is why we need to make sure that we get this right. This bill removes all checks and balances. Discretion would be given to an advisory board with no regulatory authority and simply published in the Pennsylvania Bulletin. There will be no public comment, no legislative review, and no IRRC review. Mr. Chairman, I would like to move that Senate Bill 1230 be laid on the table until after a public hearing, just in 2 or 3 months, on this bill has been held by the committee.
Thank you. Representative Gline makes a motion to lay on the table Senate Bill 1230. Have a motion made by Representative Dorsey, second by Representative Cooper. Jonathan, please take the roll.
Dawkins,
No, and all Democrats will be voting in the negative.
McKenzie, Cooper, Diorsi, Ecker, Flood, Gleim,
Yes.
Ham, Jones, Kiefer, Rowe, Stanball. The motion fails.
Thank you. Well, I will urge all members now to support Senate Bill 1230, and I'll ask Jonathan to take the roll.
Dawkins,
Yes.
Boyd, Brennan,
Yes by designation.
Deloso, Donahue, Gerald, Green, Haddock, O'Mara,
Yes by designation.
Piscitano,
Yes by designation.
Rozzi,
Yes by designation.
Scott,
Yes by designation.
Siegel, Young, McKenzie, Cooper, Diorsi, Ecker, Flood, Gleim, Ham, Jones, Kiefer, Rowe, Stanball. The bill passes as committed.
Thank you. Senate Bill 1230 is reported as committed from the House and Labor and Industry Committee. Seeing no other business before this committee, this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.